Orlando, but that's where I did the nonprofit stuff. I'm in Virginia now, and I hope this is just the start of a dialogue. So please take my card. You can see I got the typical Naval Academy email address. But remember one thing, my last name is Michelson, but I spell it E-A, not A-E. So if you think you're spelling it right, so I sent you an email, you send it E-A, no, it's A-E. But what I've got here, I have brief, which has the process in it. This document has the Word document. This was the one that Elizabeth has on the Parents Club. I brought some sample of some of the other documents, and I'm probably not going to go over the process today because last year when I came to this, I was asked a lot of questions. And so I turned it into a frequently asked questions to kind of get your questions, and then why, some recommendations for why you should be a 501c3. But I probably won't get into the process because you'll be rotating. But that's why I take my email, drop me note. We have a phone call discussions, whatever you need. So this is just a start to give you some information. The things I want to go through today are the frequently asked questions and why you should become one. If you take a copy of the brief or you send me an email, I'll give it to you. You can see the process. And this is the same thing that's in the PowerPoint, but Word. It was all the steps that we did in Orlando. So, are there costs involved? Yes, there are costs involved. But I think it outweighs what you get from it and what you don't have to pay in cost outweighs it. And so I don't have to look up and down, I'll go through here. There's a one-time cost. And when I give state costs, this is what it cost me in Florida. So it could be $5 or $10 lower, it could be higher in your state. But when you went through and you had to get a name, you had to find a name. So it was the Florida State Commission's website. We went through, you could put a name in to see if anybody else used it. That's the same thing if you're doing 501c3, if you're doing an LLC, I own my own one-person LLC, same type of things. You got to make sure the name's available, and that costs around $70. And then it costs with a federal filing for the one time only, not every year, a $400 charge. So that will be a one-time cost. And every year you have to update, because I know I've talked to a few folks that they've let it expire. If you don't go every year and update, you got to go on. Then it goes into the expired one, and like the New Jersey club is just saying, yeah, we're in a different pile. We can't get IRS to look at it. So by staying active, you don't have to worry about going that route. But it should be no more than $100. And primarily, the state fees are around $60. You go online. I usually get notification from my LLC that I have. Hey, yours expires in August, so we need you to go ahead and get online and do it. A reminder, and I get something in the mail. So they're pretty good about letting you know. But work with your treasurer, stuff like this. We had an action item in our calendar for the chapter when it was kind of about a month before it was due, so you can make sure. And I got how much time it takes to do it. It's not really much time at all for annual. The biggest thing that could cause problems, especially, and I won't say problems, but cost more money, and it's with the Parents Club, is with amendments. Every time you change your board of director, it costs $35. Us as alumni in the chapters, especially down in Orlando, we were down there, we weren't going to move around and stuff like that. You all worked through 4 years, primarily. Some of you, I saw talking to the Arizona treasurer, his mid graduated in 2016, but he stays on. Nobody wants to be the treasurer, he said. But you guys move on, so anytime you change your positions in that, it costs $35. We got to the point and asked them, because we were doing a lot of initial changes initially, we could do it once a year and just letting them know. So, and that's pretty much would coincide with you all in the summer, as some of you move to different positions. Sometimes, I know in Orlando, the treasurer stayed 2 years. I think you said you had this 2 years now, right, or something like that. Sometimes the president stayed 2 years. But if one person changed, just wait. Hey, they moved out of the area in May, and we got our welcome picnic in June. Let's just wait till June. That's not a problem with doing that one-time amendment. And in Florida, you'll have to check your individual state. But if we didn't file by May, we had a $400 penalty. So, and that will be all over when you go to your, I think Virginia was State of Commission too, and I did my LLC, Florida State of Commission. So something there, if you Google your state and say 501c3 application, it will get you to the right site for your state. So that's not a problem at all. How much time is Wallace? God, this takes forever, doesn't it? Do I have time to do this? Actually, it's not that bad. It took about 10 to 20 hours to research my treasure, and I left Orlando because I moved up to Virginia after Orlando's chapter was defunct. I started it back up, was there for 5 years. My treasurer, who was with me the whole time, is still the treasurer to this day. Class of 59, God love them, and it took about 10 to 20 hours to research what we had to do. And I know EB has some sample bylaws, sample articles that she gives as you start and stuff out like that. And what the communication problem is, the state wanted one thing, and I'll explain that when we go through timing, and the IRS wanted another. But to research and actually submit the document, bring it to the board for discussion, 10 to 20 hours max is what he spent. So it wasn't a whole lot of time. When you come to annual, like I say, they notify you, you put a little checklist in, you go to the website. It's, I say 1 to 2 hours. I think my treasurer told me it took them like 30 minutes and to reapply every year, and that's that annual fee. When I do my LLC, I get it done in 15, 20 minutes. So it's not long once you go to the state site. So it's not a lot of time. At the end of the year, you have to file taxes. The IRS won't let you out of that. We filed every year since we became one in 2009, and I just verified before I came here that Orlando is still doing that. It's never had to pay anything. It's just you have to file, type of thing. So it's kind of like almost, I started doing my mom's taxes before she died as a senior citizen. There's a certain age there that she didn't make that much, so she had to file, but you didn't have to pay anything. So that's the way they treat the non-profits. Once you have it, your payment is that annual renewal. It's not anything to pay for income tax. So how much time, and I have to laugh at this slide, it should take about 4 to 6 weeks from when you submitted it to hear back from your state. And then 2 to 3 months for federal. It took us 15 months overall. So it just depends. And I say that laughingly because the state guy never told us. He just says, no, the documents are not acceptable. Documents are not acceptable. Because when I got the documents from Joe Fagan's predecessor, he was the guy that's just here. He's the chapter coordinator, Elizabeth's counterpart. It was the articles and the bylaws were together. Well, they didn't tell us until 3 months into the process that we only want to see the articles. You'll have to check your state to see what they want, but they only want to see the articles of incorporation. And then they have a place where they put that up online so the IRS can go look at your documents and all the other documents you send. And the IRS says, oh no, we only want bylaws. So finally, we finally could contact them, because sometimes they don't return a lot of calls except when you're at the top of their pile and they want to get you off the pile. But my year, you may remember a few years back where the IRS got in trouble for some conferences they were having, and they were also picking on the Tea Party with which nonprofits to do and whatnot. So there was a lot of other things to go on which added on to that. But in the guidance, it should be about 4 to 6 months for the state and about federal, and about 2 to 3 months.
So it's months, it's not weeks here?
Oh, I'm sorry, 4 to 6 weeks for state and 2 to 3 months for the federal. Sorry, so it's correct on there. And what my just like anything, when you're doing follow-up and you're working with volunteers, even though these aren't volunteers, you want that nice, tactful follow-up, type of things. Like, if it's been 3 weeks we haven't heard, okay, yeah, and my treasurer went to the local state office to try to get everything done. No, just keep going. So once they said that, we started doing it every week, type of things. And I think that's why we got seen, because we were persistent in going through there. But it just all depends, like, especially if you let yours lapse and then you go into a different pile or a different black hole, depending on who you talk to. but it's just, you got to follow up and kind of get the right number, try to call, and there should be all information on the websites when you go for federal filing. And in this document here, and in the back of this brief, I didn't put in the frequently asked questions, are the documents you got to fill out for international, where you can find them, the website and everything there. So,
Where is everybody?
okay, so this was one I got asked like 3 different groups in the round
Is
table
there,
last year.
is there a plan from the association to standardize some?
Does your registered agent
Because they-
need to be an attorney or CPA?
Or we wouldn't have this
No.
two-day conference. Yet there's no
Absolutely,
help.
they recommend not, you know, type of thing. Now, if one of your, you know, the Parents Club members is a CPA or is an attorney, like I work with Washington, Elizabeth mentioned that before the lunch, he was an attorney I talked with, they just gotta make sure they're doing everything pro bono for conflict of interest, keep everything separated. But my treasurer, he did finance a lot in his career, and so he was my treasurer, he was a registered agent, and we had somebody else designated backup. And it's really not hard, it's just they're the person that's going to be contacted. Somehow they put my address on and his name, so I always the one that got contacted. But I just want to know who they want to contact if they have questions or something like that. So it's great if you have, you know, some finance, MBA background or anything like that, but you don't need it. I'm not a finance guy, I'm not an MBA guy, I'm an applied math guy, but, you know, we didn't need to do that. So you don't have to have anybody special to be a special, you know, background and that to be a registered agent. Go ahead, Chuck.
When you roll off the board, then the registry agent gets renamed in the.
That's part of the amendments, correct. The amendments is usually is the officers and the registered agent are the ones that they are concerned about. So it behooves maybe y'all with a 4-year turnover is to have backups, you know, especially for registered agent, is you got a treasurer, find somebody else that, you know, and it was our treasurer, I'm not picking on you, but our treasurer was a registered agent, and we had somebody he was our audit chair, who was his backup as registered agent, just so, you know, people understood what he had to go through, so you didn't have to retrain, because that's how people lose their 501c, because the person who did it goes away, there's nobody volunteering to do it. It's not that hard, is what I'm trying to say. It's not that hard to go ahead and do it.
Forward this to your parents.
I didn't even,
So, and they do. You may cover this later, but if you don't know if you've had
Like the first
501c3
time he sent it out kind of gently.
go to your
if it's been,
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State would know it if you had it. If not, if you're applying for it new, and they see the organization, they say, you know, you used to have one and stuff like that too. But you're still going to have to go, if you've had one in the past and it's lapsed, sometimes 5-10 years maybe,
At least 3.
you're going to have to go through the paperwork. So yeah, it's going to be, so it doesn't hurt to know what you know, but you can always go to the Secretary of State and find out. There's stuff on, in Orlando, it was the Board of Commissions that we had in Florida, whatever state you go through. Okay. Do you need a file income tax? I already said this. Basically, it's, yes, the IRS monitors that. If you don't, that will be a flag, and they'll contact you, ask what's going on. And so you have just the same April 15th, you know, so in January it was one of our due dates for the treasurer to start looking at everything, see what we had to go ahead and do the taxes to get it done. So he took just a couple hours a year, but, you know, it wasn't long. You just got to go ahead and file taxes.
What's the due date on 501c3?
In Orlando, we had to have everything in by May 1st, our annual, but the income taxes are the income tax date, you know, April 15th and stuff like that, but your annual filing was May. Now, I don't know if it's 501c3 is like that every state, but when I came to Virginia and transferred my LLC, a one-person limited liability corporation, it was basically, now it's due every time I do it, it's on a calendar, so every August I have to do it, so.
From when you renewed.
When I renewed for my
It's the same
LLC,
thing in Colorado.
But this
the
one-
anniversary of when you.
when you renewed, but in Florida it was you know,
One day.
yeah, the same year,
It's fiscal.
fiscal, yeah. Okay. Is there a problem with turnover? I get that, especially, that was one of the big questions last year. No, but you got amendment fees. So hopefully you won't have turnovers during the year. And just work on your budget for the year, and just include a $35 amendment fee plus your state filing 60. That's why Florida was 60. That's why I say it's about $100. And if you pay, I always paid to have a certified copy done, and that was another $875. So make sure I have records of it and that. But we posted it on our website. We posted our EIN. You have to go when you're going to the federal for IRS. You got to go and get an employee identification number. And plus they'll give you your nonprofit number and that, but it's just work. It's not costing aside those fees I told you about. Okay, so now you have this, it lets you know it's not hard. If you budget for it, you know, it's great, it's not much money, but what are the benefits? Why is it recommended that you should do this? Well, one, the chapters, the Alumni Association chapter coordinator, Joe Fagan, and the ED for the Parents Club are highly encouraging all those teams, all those cities, areas that have away football games coming. When they first started going to the American, and some of the groups didn't have a nonprofit status, you know, the tent you rent for your tailgate, $1,000 in taxes. You know, so you're paying more money. And with is anybody from a city with an away game this year?
No, we're 2018.
2018, that's where Florida is. I used to be down in Florida. Where are you at? Kentucky?
Outside of Cincinnati.
Yeah, and there's a whole expectation. Ask Elizabeth if you got one coming on. It shows, and they highly encourage the Parents Club and the chapter to work together because there's so many responsibilities. And this could happen if a soccer team comes, a glee comes, but it won't be to the extent, the magnitude is what they have with football. But what they recommend there for you with next year is they usually have the soup or the doc come speak on with a lunch or a dinner reception. Then they have a tailgate. So they recommend that Parents Club do one and the chapter do the other. Like East Carolina, we have nothing, Parents Club or a chapter in the area. So the chapter was Hampton Roads, mine in Tidewater in the Virginia Beach area, Norfolk area, did the dinner with the soup. We had a Thursday night game there, so it was on a Wednesday night game. Then the game was canceled because of the hurricane. But then another Parents Club from, I think it was Charlotte. Okay, was that you guys who did there? See, didn't mean to pick on you, but it just sometimes we're not there. But there was a lot of responsibility that you had probably for what you did that year.
Last year?
Well, when you had the game, yeah.
Well, we had to do it twice.
Twice. Oh yeah.
So we refunded a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
The hurricane hit, and they got canceled. And then we had to plan it a week before Thanksgiving. And we got about 4 days notice.
Well, hopefully, of course, this year has been an unusual year for hurricanes, and we got hit by Matthew in Virginia too. But that's kind of things, and you can see on my slide here, a hotel facility. We loved it because when we had I brought down the admirals in charge of the foundation, Rear Admiral Lynch, Rear Admiral Natter. I brought down some senior officials from the Naval Academy. We had somebody else coming, and they had to cancel at the last minute. I think it was the former Joint Chiefs of Staff / CNO, and he's an OA guy like me. Starts with an M, I'll think of it. But anyway, and when you go to these hotels and you show them your nonprofit number, you have no taxes. So you don't have to charge your members that much money to eat, you know, type thing. Because you always got that balance. You want to have a decent menu, but you don't want to charge outlandish prices. And sometimes they can give you a break on certain things here. And we didn't have to pay for the facility or either because of that. So it just depends, and that it's all case by case.
So you don't pay state tax then?
Don't pay state or federal tax.
So you just, whatever the price is, you just pass that on?
Yeah, they work, like we used to work on a menu and it says, okay, this is $19.95 per person without tax. With taxes it would have been like 28 or something like that. By the time you put the room things in there. So it saves, by paying that money to have a nonprofit, it saves when you go and do your own event. And so I guess, like I said, the taxes could be the thousands of dollars like it was for the tents, for the tailgates.
Is there simple, easy
And the next slide, I just want to show an example. This is an example of the Orlando chapter and the Central Florida Parents Club working together. We had a great relationship down there, and they still do for the 7 Parents Club members that won. They do the, and I'm sure you all do your winter, social winter dance and that with all the academies. Of course, down in Central Florida, there's never enough for Merchant Marine or Coast Guard, so it just rotated between Army, Air Force, and Navy. But what they did, they have their own nonprofit status now. But at the time, they didn't have. They were still researching it. So we partnered with them so they could use ours. And they went out to all the businesses to where they were having. They didn't have to pay the place for the room, facility, where it was at. The food was cheaper, and they went to get donations so they could have raffles. I don't know if you guys do that too and stuff like that. But they ended up, the money they earned from that with cash donations, everything there was about $4,500. Of course, they do the legwork that I don't like to do, go from business to business or call them, go get that donation. But then, for thanking us, they gave us some money, which we turned around and gave back to the Academy for STEM and summer seminar scholarships from Orlando that didn't have the money type of thing. So it just, it helps out a lot by having that when you're going to talk to your local businesses. We thought it was important kind of help out. We were small. Orlando used to be big. We had a base, had New Power School. We have nothing there. The closest base is Tampa, and they have their own chapter. And then I think there might be something on the East Coast also, but there's nothing. You got a bunch of retirees. There's maybe exchange, but that's about it. But we felt all their fees and donations, because we had a place where they can make donations to the chapter, were fully tax deductible. To the end of the year, the treasurer said, you've donated this much here, and through using the right terminology had to from what was required for taxes. Any other donations, fees that they did. In Florida, if you were a nonprofit, you got free checking. We didn't have that much in the account. So, matter of fact, when the chapter died 5 years before I came down there, the treasurer at the time pulled out the money because it was just taken away with the fees every month, and it was going down to zero. So there's a lot of banks and that will offer free checking for you, no event fees, like I said before. And if you go to TechSoup.org, you can get your software. Like if you want to do Quicken for nonprofits, things of that nature, $5-10 compared to what you buy at open markets. They give nonprofits a lot of good. You got to give them your number, and you might have to send a copy of your letter from the IRS. But it still is a really good way to, it does benefit your member. And one thing I will say, because it says alumni chapter support, and we're very big on supporting the Alumni Association. I'm a life member. How they, saw the graph with you annual/life members. All the money given to them doesn't come to your local chapter. So we would join the Parents Club as chapter, and the Parents Club would join us to kind of support each other. So I just throw that out since they got alumni chapter support there, but it's not really 501c because we wanted to work together, type of things. And we had a great relationship, not like some of they always talk about Greater Seattle or Washington, the ones and the stuff they do together, North Texas. But for small, we have like 40 members.
Where I feel like
and the
I can do a part of this club for the rest of my life.
Probably had
So it's like American.
10 to 15 candidates a year for
I'm still hanging
the
around.
Parents Club was going through, plus there. So it wasn't that quite large, and so it was really good that we could work together. It was just our reason, because you have to give like a value proposition of what you're going to do with your nonprofit. It's either in the bylaws or the articles. But this just shows you an example of what we do. We want to advocate the Academy mission. You saw that from the soup. We want to sustain the continuing quality of USNA alumni, providing tuition assistance, teaming with local Parents Club and Blue and Gold officers. I was a Blue and Gold officer with that part too. And connect with shipmates, the new mids when they're down in the area. We like to work with them when they came down for Operations Info, when they could, to kind of make sure we would support them. We actually had the guy who runs the international programs come down and brief our combined Parents Club and that, and Parents Club and chapter, which was very good. And
All right,
finally,
if you're ready, we can switch groups.
just our purpose. But please, I hope this is just the start of a dialogue. As you go through this, send me an email first. I'll send you everything solved. And then as I've gone through things and learned lessons, I can do that, you know, kind of at least help you with there. But again, each individual state will be a little bit different. But please use me, ask me, and good luck. And I just see a lot of benefit for you.
Just a basic process. You start with your state and you incorporate an entity with your state. And then after that, you
get one of these?
I did.
Yeah.
And then after that, you
go to the-
apply for.
You got to get a mailing address. There's a whole lot of steps. There's about 7
Right,
steps.
but I'm just saying, big picture.
Big picture,
You
start with the state.
incorporate with the state,
State, correct.
and then you apply, I mean, all the things that that entails.
Right.
And then you apply for the status.
To the state, and then we apply with the IRS, right? Basically, and that's all in there and there.
Great, thank you so
Yeah.
much.